iPhone 14 Pro Max is Apple's top tier flagship phone. It's basically the benchmark phone in the market. Today, Poco launched the new Poco F5 Pro, which is a flagship phone targeted at somebody who wants a lower price point with really great specifications. Now, I will be covering the Poco F5 Pro in a full review on my second channel, the More Nick Ackerman channel, so be sure to be subscribed to that one. I'll leave it linked down below. You can also find it in the channel section of the main page. The iPhone 14 Pro Max rocks the Apple A16 Bionic chipset coupled with 6 gigs of RAM. And the Poco F5 Pro does have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and it also does have 8 gigabytes of RAM. You can also get it with more RAM if you go up to a higher storage tier. So being that this new Poco F5 Pro is targeted towards somebody who wants a lot of speed, let's go ahead and see how it compares in speed to the fastest, arguably the fastest phone on the market today, the 14 Pro Max. Let's begin with a boot up in 3, 2, go. Now keep in mind that the Poco brand is a Xiaomi based device, so it is, it is on the MIUI software, which is quite smooth. And it also does have, pretty good specifications, including a vapor chamber and some cooling technology to keep it pretty cool. It also has a game turbo mode to make it even faster. Now, this is twice the price here on the 14 Pro Max, so I don't expect the Poco to be faster, but how close does it get for being at a early bird special price of $449? I mean, this is ridiculous. So yes, the iPhone does boot up far faster, but keep in mind, we are looking at a pretty similar screen size here, 6.7 inches. It does have 6.67 to be exact. It does have, in-display fingerprint sensor on the Poco F5 Pro. And also you are getting quite a healthy amount of RAM, 8 gigs or 12 gigs if you go with 512 GB storage, and a relatively still fast Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, all at a price that's half the price of not only the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but things like the S23 Plus, the S23 Ultra. Those phones are twice the price, with giving you pretty similar performance. Even though they have the newer 8 Gen 2, this one is still pretty darn fast. So let's take a look at how they do with the unlocking speed, and you're gonna see the iPhone 14 Pro Max with that buttery smooth Face ID technology with the dynamic island up there, very quick. Even can see you on some weird angles. I can turn it like on the side here and it could still see you. So it's pretty darn good technology there. Now on the Poco F5 Pro, we are going to be seeing a in-display fingerprint sensor. And one thing I'll tell you about a lot of these Chinese phones is that they definitely have very good in-display fingerprint sensors. They're always pretty quick, which is pretty good here. Again, just like all other Android-based devices out there with in-display fingerprint, because you don't actually have to look at the display, the Poco F5 is likely going to be a faster unlocking experience than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but it didn't turn on faster, so it's 1-1 so far. Now let's take a look at the general performance of the UI. Now, like I said with my Xiaomi 13 Pro video, as terms of Android phones, the MIUI is pretty close to iOS in smoothness. I think iOS is still a little bit better with the animations, but this MIUI is pretty fast. Now, I will say that when you go to display, the Poco F5 Pro does have the first WQHD Plus resolution with a 120 Hertz panel for a Poco device here. Now, you can see right here that if you go to default, this one right here will kind of tweak the resolution or the refresh rates depending on what you're doing on screen. I'll leave it in 120 Hertz. But there's also a gaming turbo mode right here, which will put you in a gaming mode, and also it can boost up its gaming performance during games. But overall, just generally scrolling through, I would say the Poco F5 Pro feels just about as smooth as an iPhone 14 Pro. I'm not even kidding with you. It does take a little while to turn on versus the 14 Pro, but once it's turned on, once it's moving, it's pretty similar. It's actually better performing so far to me than something like a Galaxy A54, which is in a similar price range. All right, guys, so we do have the same applications lined up for both phones. Let's see which one can open these apps first. Let's go into Calendar, and you can see that's first on the left. MIUI 14 versus iOS 16. Pretty good here on both. Clock. This is pretty crazy how good these Chinese phones perform versus, well, I shouldn't say these Chinese phones. I should say these Poco F5 Pro phones, because They're the new kid on the block, how well these are performing next to top tier flagships. So Poco has been researching, and looking into what consumers have been wanting, well, at least they're consumers anyway. And basically they want to give them a flagship phone here at a cheaper price. And it looks like you're going to get that at least in the area of performance. Now, if you want to know more about the camera, go ahead and be subscribed to my Morning Ackerman channel. I'll be posting a review there soon. We'll talk more about it. But let's go into Twitter. And I could tell you, man, the performance on this F5 Pro. Remember, when I'm saying performance about this phone, I'm not pushing it on you trying to say to get it. I'm just saying, like, I'm pretty impressed. And I'm not like trying to say the iPhone isn't impressive. It's just the iPhone is so good. We kind of know that the iPhone is going to be great, so I don't really have to like give it its praise too much because it's kind of like built in already. Like we already know it's going to be good. So let's go into Amazon. And I know that might have sounded like a fanboy comment. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Apple has really had their performance nailed down for a long time. Now, buggy software, they still work on that all the time. They do have buggy software here and there. But in terms of the A series chips, those things are beasts. They've been beast. But look at this Poco F5 Pro loading applications faster than the iPhone in some areas. And again, remember, this is a global based phone. So if you want to pick it up unlocked, you can get this thing for half the price of any, premium Android or, premium iPhone. AKA this phone is like $500. You're going to pay, see the game Turbo came on, you're going to pay like $1,000 or more to get a comparable Samsung or Apple phone. Let me go ahead and turn the volume down. And I missed that tap because I was talking to you guys on Dead Trigger. But the thing is that, you can load up these games quite easily on either phones. Let's go into Asphalt 9. And you can see Asphalt 9. See, look at this. I mean, the last one I did miss the tap. I'm not going to lie to you. You've seen it. I missed it. But on this one, you could see, look at this was like dead even. And this phone has last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. There is a boost that goes on for the Poco phone when it comes to gaming. They do have this game turbo. Like I say, it boosts the performance when you go in. And you can see it could load even COD just as fast as something like an iPhone. It's pretty darn fast here. So you could see definitely it had it in almost exactly a similar time to this iPhone. So if you're looking for a phone that looks good, it's like a premium flagship at a lower price, but you also want good gaming performance, I think Poco F5 has nailed this combination, because a lot of times you got to buy those phones that look like gamer phones, but this one has the gaming turbo mode and it has more of a traditional smartphone style look. So that's pretty cool, I would say overall. Let's go into Temple Run 2. And again, if you're in the US market, which a lot of people on this channel are, I wouldn't recommend this. It's probably not going to be the best option. But for those of you watching the channel in other markets that offer Poco phones, it's a pretty good, option here. Let's go ahead and swipe down. But like I say, if you're in the US market, I probably still would consider another brand. But, it's still an amazing performing device so far. Let's go into Subway Surfers. It's incredible how good this is performing, actually. It's actually kind of shocking me that it's this good. If you compare it to like the A54 that just launched, I love that phone, by the way. It's pretty cool. But this one, it might be a better option when it comes to speed. If you want the Samsung software, though, you're not going to get it. Geekbench first on the left. And I actually have 3D Mark downloaded, but it's not optimized properly for this phone. So we're not actually going to be including. It's unable to connect to the servers. So we're not going to use that. We'll just do KineMaster. And yes, KineMaster does load a little ad here on Android. So we're just going to go through these sections in here to see how they operate when in application. Let's go to create here. So you can see once in the KineMaster application, pretty good here. We'll go home, video edit. So you can see once in, pretty good. I am pretty astonished by the performance here of the Poco F5 Pro. I mean, it is on point. It is definitely deserving of the Pro name if you want to talk about a flagship performance. It has been excellent in this test. Now, there are some areas where this doesn't feel flagship. I'll talk about that in my full review. But in terms of performance, they've nailed it with the Poco F5 Pro. Again, I usually use the iPhone as the benchmark. So let's go ahead and see how it does with its reload. And it's not really going to change from video to video. Again, like I say, I tend to use the iPhone. That was in the lobby, so it's just reloading the lobby. I tend to use the iPhone as the benchmark because it's the phone we look at to see what is the fastest out there. You know, we know Apple is big time, and Apple does bring the heat when it comes to performance. And again, I still don't think anybody's beating iPhone when it comes to these animations. Do you see how buttery smooth that was? It is like almost perfection. It might be perfection on the 14 Pro Max. Let's go here. And like I said in my Xiaomi 13 Pro video, I'm pretty impressed with the animation speed and smoothness on these Poco or Xiaomi based phones. The MIUI software seems pretty well optimized for this kind of stuff. I don't see any choppiness, any lag. This is pretty darn good. Look at this. Pretty darn good. We don't see any weird stuff going on. Really rock solid performance. Wow, that was pretty darn good for a device right there. I would say that was probably better looking than some Samsung phones I've tested this year in terms of just the way it looked. There was like no lag, no stutter. Yeah, pretty good there overall. Now we are running the benchmark here, Geekbench 6. I don't expect the iPhone to lose here. It typically always wins here. While they're doing that, I just want to talk about a couple of things in this video. This is a global based phone, like I said earlier, which means you can use it around the world. It is available in 98 markets. But you'll see right here, it has your favorite Google apps. So this is not the Chinese-based Poco device. This one does have the Play Store. It's more of a global-based software. You'll see right here, it does have 5G connectivity, and then that's about it on the box. It does come with a pretty big charger in the box as well. Again, this is not my review, but I wanted to talk about a few things here. Going to give you a little sneak peek. Let me open this up really quickly off camera. This does have a 67-watt charger inside of the box. So you'll see Poco guides and stuff right there. Let me go ahead and open this up really quickly while those are doing the test. It does have a 67-watt charger. Now, this is the EU charger, so this is not a charger you're going to find a plug for if you're in the US, but there are adapters to adapt to it. But 67-watt right there, designed by Xiaomi. You could see it's still a Xiaomi-based phone. And then over here, we do have a USB-C to USB 2 cable there. So this still not a USB-C to USB-C. You'll see it's still using USB 2 right there. Kind of old on that, but I mean, what else could you want? A lot of phones don't even give you a charger in the box anymore. Again, they're not selling hundreds of millions of these, so they could probably still afford to put the, put that in there. And it actually looks like we have 12 gigs of RAM. I was wrong on that. There is an 8 gig of RAM model, but this one I got is actually a 12 gig of RAM. So I had to correct myself on that one. I'll be back when Geekbench 5 is done. Also, I wanted to mention that this does come with a case in the box, a clear case for the Poco F5 Pro. So we are just about done here with the Geekbench 6 scores, and you'll see that the Poco does pretty respectable for an Android device, 3865 multi, 1292 single. This is pretty much what we see on other flagship Android phones. The iPhone winning it out with 6265, 2505 on the single core. Now, unfortunately, I cannot test 3D Mark Wildlife because it's not supported on this Poco F5 Pro. But I can tell you at the end of the day, between both of these phones, they have a pretty decent hit on their hands right here, especially if you're looking for a phone that comes in at a lower price point and gives you flagship tier performance. Now, I'm not so impressed with the camera so far. I'll talk more about that in my full review of this phone, but it still has 8K recording, and it still has a triple camera setup. Has fast charging on here. Again, not a review, but versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max, top of the line right here, boss status phone, it did pretty darn well. And in some areas, it felt even faster. Also, like I say, it has this game turbo mode right here. So if you want to get into your gaming, you can do that right here. It kind of feels like it's a little gaming phone right here. So definitely pretty impressive stuff there on the Poco F5 Pro with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, 12 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, not bad. So let me know your thoughts on the Poco F5 Pro versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max speed test. Which one did you think came out on top? And if you want to see more of these phones we don't typically show, like Poco, OnePlus, these other phones, because we typically do our Samsung, iPhone stuff around these parts, let me know. But again, for full reviews of these types of devices, I am going to be building out my second channel, so go check that out. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.